So I haven't been on the test place for Phantom Forces in a while, but they have this OTS 126, which I've never heard of, but I thought, why not just see what it's got? We're going to use slightly different setup. I always use like a Kawsaku site or something, but today we're going to be using the, Gen 1? Gen 1. Anyways, that's going to be the site for today. What the hell is a T-brake? We will try out the T-brake. I don't know what half of these new attachments are. You know, I feel like stubby or folding still probably the best. Ammo type, super armor piercing. Ooh. No. Okay, let's try it without it. So I don't know anything about this gun, and I also haven't been on the test place for a while. So I guess I'll kind of take this opportunity to talk about future things for PF and give some of my half-hearted opinions on those things. So I guess one of the biggest questions that I'm asked all the time when I'm streaming, when people see me in the game, all the time, the most popular questions gotta be, what guns do you want to see in Phantom Forces? And my answer is usually pretty bland and direct. I usually don't really care. I feel like we have more than enough guns on the game, but for the sake of trying to stay in the spirit of not being a Debbie Downer, let's actually try to have an opinion on it. The one gun that I personally have wanted to always see in Phantom Forces, and this is purely for nostalgia reasons from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, is the ACR. I feel like that's just an awesome gun all around. I loved using it on there. There's not many games that I've played that really have that gun, which kind of saddens me because it was something that I've really enjoyed. And it's like the one thing that, like, if you could ask me any gun in the game right now, what would it be? It would be the ACR. Now, we've had a lot of guns added to Phantom Forces over the years, and that's both a good and bad thing depending on how you want to look at it. But the truth of the matter is that more guns are going to continue to be added. So instead of complaining all the time, why not just try to make the most of them? There's things like this carbine, which I honestly forgot the name of already. I apparently just picked up ammo off an AF 2011. No idea what that is. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I kind of wish they would do their theme updates again. Actually, let me make that a, you know, good and bad statement here. So I kind of wish that they would do the like themed updates, how they had the like Korean War guns and things like that. Thought that was a really unique idea. It kept things pretty simplified. However, it did lead to some overstepping in some sense, but I feel like even that Korean gun update was decently good. We were introduced to the K7, which is really good. The K2, actually, all of the Korean guns that were added were pretty good when they came out. I believe they've all received some sort of minor tweaks since the time of release, which was definitely necessary. Of course, they weren't, you know, the most balanced things first time around. Not saying that they were overpowered, but there was definitely little tweaks that could have been done to them to kind of tweak them up just a little bit to make them a little bit better for the game. And they came out pretty good. I personally love the K7. The K1A became kind of a staple for like a try-hardy gun. It was insanely good, and I thought that update was overall solid. I personally would rather see guns that come out a little too powerful and get toned down rather than guns that come out and just never really make it to the popular scene of things. Because if you end up buffing a gun, I feel like that if you end up buffing a gun and you buff it a little too much, I feel like that will get way more backlash than if you released a gun and it was a little too powerful and you went back and tweaked it. I feel like the margin for errors or the margin for complaints is definitely different in those two cases. So I would much rather see something be slightly too powerful and get tweaked back a little bit than something that's added to the game and just doesn't really fit anything. I feel like the Korean guns, the reason why I use that example is because I all feel like they fit a certain, not niche, but they fit in the game, right? The K7 was the alternate to the Vector, where the Vector was much better in the super close range, whereas the K7 was better all around, in my opinion at least. The K1A became a pretty staple gun, extremely accurate, good fire rate, was a solid gun to use. The K2 didn't receive as much popularity, in my opinion, as the other two, and that was because it was an assault rifle that has a really stacked category to compete with. A lot of the assault rifles on this game are good, so when you release a new one, of course, it's going to have a lot of competition. Then you had the K14, the sniper that also followed with this update, which wasn't bad either. I didn't really have any negative things to say about the K14, and I don't think many people really did. It had a decent one-shot torso range. It kind of fit the current meta of what snipers are in Phantom Forces, and that was a pretty cool thing. And the reason why I'm saying it's both good and bad, because we will have some kind of themed updates that just won't really fit, if you know what I mean. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain the way I'm thinking about it, where if you have guns that all come from a similar era of time, they're all going to have some pretty common things with them, at least in my opinion. I'm not the biggest gun nerd. I don't know like the intricacies of all of it, but if you take, you know, 20 guns from World War II, they're all going to be kind of built in a similar way. They're all going to have, you know, a similar kind of style to them. That's because as time goes on, of course, the needs for certain things develop. Certain things become more necessary, other things become less that's necessary. And to have everything based on one time zone can be a little bit wonky, and not necessarily a good or bad thing, but I also feel like it's better to avoid it. So maybe if we could take a longer time period of things and try to span those out and not put as many guns, right? So with the K-14, the Korean gun series, it was 4 guns. And with how long it takes to put in updates for Phantom Forces, it's usually a few months in between. 4 guns wasn't that bad. I didn't feel like that was overwhelming at all. I felt like it delivered on a lot of things that people may have wanted, and overall was solid. But you eventually get to the point where, like, this most recent update that we added like 12 different pistols or something, I feel like that's just a bit much. I didn't really see how that fit anything. And I understand that they were all just ammo types that became their own guns. Well, specifically the Glock series. That was at least what they did with that. They were originally just ammo types for the Glock that they turned into their own gun, which, like, cool and all, but then that also adds into, like, of course, the issue where things just look too cluttered. And I think that's definitely a big thing. However, the Glocks are really the only case I could think of where that really was, you know, obvious. They had a ton of ammo types for the Glocks, and then they made them into like 6 different guns. So now it looks like we have 6 different pistols, and to me that just feels cluttered. We're not really accomplishing too much with that other than making it feel overwhelming, in my opinion, at least for like a newer player. It especially comes down to a point where this could be argued both ways, mind you, for the ammo types or them being their own standoff guns, where you go to look at it and you just don't really know what to pick. Just to take an example, if we take a look at secondaries right now, go to pistols, you have the G17, G21, G23, G40, G50. That's a lot of Glocks. And for people who may not be gun nerds or like stat nerds, that's a lot to choose from, right? Like, that's hard to kind of discern what you'd want, but that argument can also be made with the ammo types. And then again, that loops back to me saying that we just have too much in the game. And I think that opinion of mine will always stay. I don't think I'll ever feel differently about that, because I try to put myself in the shoes in this specific argument of someone who's new to the game. If you haven't been around for years, if you haven't seen the game develop, when you get on to Phantom Forces for the first time and you take a look at the guns, you're gonna have one of 2 reactions. One is going to be, wow, that's a lot of potential guns I could use. That's really cool. The other reaction is going to be, I have no idea what to use. And for the general casual audience who play games, of course, most people are here to play them casually, it probably isn't that bad for them. They see a lot of guns and it's like, oh, you know, maybe they can mess around with some. But for any of the guns to really get the use that they would expect, or for them to be understood by a lot of people, it's just not going to work with that many. So while I don't like that they all became standoff guns, I do understand why. And I feel like trying to do that in the future also isn't the best of ideas. Look at that fancy little grenade. I feel like that's not going to be the best of ideas to continue a pattern of that. Not that it's become a pattern, but I think to avoid it would probably be best. And that, of course, I think, okay, so let me also wrap this back. I know I'm kind of talking about 30 different topics at once, but everything's kind of coming into my head and I'm just commentating as things, you know, pop up. It's to come down to the issue with all the guns and whatnot. It's just ammo types have become so common, which I also hold the opinion that I think ammo types were probably one of the worst updates to ever hit Phantom Forces. And my reason for that is because there's a ton of balance issues with them over the years. Granted, they have gotten better, so I can't really have too many complaints right now, but occasionally a new ammo type will come out that's just, it causes a ruckus in Phantom Forces. It's obnoxious to deal with. It's not that great. And, you know, balance issues are going to happen. I can't complain about that too much. I've complained about it enough. But when you have all these ammo types and stuff where you keep just adding onto a gun and adding onto a gun and adding on, it just becomes obnoxious at some point. Like, you have things, well, I guess the Glocks are a good example, but we'll take things like, I don't know, snipers. The M107 has like 4 or 5 different ammo types. Let's even just go through to kind of talk examples here. We take an intervention that's only got 2, but I guess M107 would be my best thing. We've got 5 different ammo types for that. We take something like the NTW. We have 3 different ammo types for that. If you go through like any of these, they're gonna have 2 or 3 different ammo types, which like Tracerless and Silent were kind of a cool update that came in, but they don't really ever get used. I never see anyone using Tracerless or Silent ammos unless they're doing it for like a meme. I guess like trying to make a super quiet gun, but even that just doesn't fit the playstyle PF. Everything's loud and go. Kind of iffy on that, but it seems like ammo types just become filler content. Like, I personally would love a whole new gun rather than just an ammo type. And maybe that's just me. For someone who doesn't even really want that many new guns in the game, that's just my opinion on it. I would much rather have a completely new thing rather than, oh, same gun, let's just slap an ammo type on it. And you guys obviously like making a ton of guns. I mean, you can't really argue that. There's a million guns in the game. If you guys like making new guns, why keep doing the ammo types for it? Why not just make a new gun as a whole? Even so, I'm trying to think of a good example. It's not the best I can't even think of one off the top of my head, but I'm sure you guys get what I mean. Make a new gun rather than just a new ammo type. Add in something different. Try to spice it up a little bit. And I understand that that's obviously very difficult, and I'm sort of contradicting myself with some of my arguments here, but if you're gonna add something new, make it new. Give us a whole new thing to look forward to, not just an ammo type for the same guns that are already really powerful. And I think that's another big thing, is adding these ammo types to guns that are already, you know, quote unquote the meta of the game. When you add those, it's like, damn, like maybe something else could have gotten it. So if you're gonna add ammo types, make it at least a little unique. Some of it's just kind of And I guess it all does come eventually back to a balance point and whatnot, and I'm sure I'm contradicting myself and not making the best of points, but that's kind of how a rambling Godstatus video goes. But I'm gonna wrap that up here just because this game's about to end. I don't even know how long I've been recording. It's been 11 minutes, so hopefully that wasn't too much. I know I stammered on quite a lot. Maybe some of my points will make a little bit of sense, but thank you guys so much for watching. Hope everybody's staying safe, and it's kind of wild to think that it's already May, so have a good rest of your day, guys.